A knowledge of the identification of range plants is important to ranchers, farmers, and various field technicians. The goal of this program is to provide students and teachers with an intensive knowledge of the identification and evaluation of range plants. Close-up views of 17 different species of grass will be provided to aid you in recognizing important identifying characteristics. Under field conditions, the key identification traits of each plant will be discussed by Mr. Billy Bob McMullen, former coach of the Snyder, Texas FFA National Champion Range and Pasture Judging Team, and Mr. Ernie Eckert, coach of the Comfort, Texas FFA State Champion Range and Pasture Judging Team. After the discussion, a graphic of each plant, including length of life, season of growth, origin, grazing value, and reaction to abuse will be presented.
This plant is red grama. Red grama is perennial, warm, native. It's an invader, and it's poor grazing. Red grama can be easily identified by its typical grama-type seed head. Each seed section comes off of the stem in an alternate pattern, with the top one appearing to come from the very end of the seed section. Red grama gets its name from the color it produces as it's maturing. The awns from the seed have a red to purple tint, therefore the name red grama. Red grama can be confused sometimes with blue grama or hairy grama most often, but if you'll notice on the end of the seed, you do not have the typical stinger that you'll find on your hairy grama. Blue grama, of course, is going to be quite a bit larger, the seed heads are, and they're going to be more straw colored.
Red grama, Botuloa trifida, perennial, warm season, native, poor, invader.
Here we have a slender bunch grass named sand dropseed. It's got some of the old plant in it. You can see it's kind of a wood shaving leaf when it matures. But what I really look for when I try to identify sand dropseed, at the base of each leaf and where it joins the sheath, you have a distinct ring of white hair that goes in every direction. I think you can pick it up right here. And also the seed, it has a long seed head that's partially enclosed in the upper sheath. Now this one hasn't started the seed head yet, but when it does, it'll never completely come out of the sheath or in the boot stage, so to speak. But the main thing to look for, I think, is where the leaf joins the sheath. At the base of each leaf, you see this distinct ring of white hair.
Sand dropseed, Sporobolus cryptandrus, perennial, warm season, native, fair, increaser.
Okay, this is sand lovegrass, perennial, warm season, native, a decreaser and good. The thing about sand lovegrass that distinguishes it, I think, from some of our other grasses is the color. It's a different shade green. I think when you're out in the field working, if you'll notice, it's just a lighter green. It's not that deep, dark green like maybe your Indian grass or plains lovegrass or some of the other deepest buffalo or anything. It's just a different shade of green. Actually, it doesn't have any shine to it at all. It's kind of a dull light green, I think. And another thing that distinguishes it from most of your other grasses, especially if you confuse it with plains lovegrass, that it has no visible nodes. A node is a little knot or knee-like portion on the stem that branches out, that stems, other stems will branch off of. But if you'll notice on sand, and I've held this little one here, we have no nodes, no knots. It's just smooth. Plains lovegrass will look almost like this, but it'll have some little nodes on it that you can distinguish between. Of course, it's an open seed head. You see the old open heads here, and they're about gone, but they flare out, and the seed are in V's, flat V's.
Sand lovegrass, Eragrostis trichodes, perennial, warm season, native, good, decreaser.
The next plant we have is Scribner panicum. Scribner panicum is a perennial, cool, native, increaser fair plant. Scribner panicum can be identified by several characteristics. The first characteristic is the identification of the starburst or robust type leaflets that leave the stem. They all want to come off from the top section and sort of in a swirl or a starburst type effect, as shown here. The second item we use to identify this plant is the solid egg type seeds located on a single seed on the end of a small section of the stem. Here we find an old seed head from last year, and all the seeds have dropped off.
Scribner panicum, Panicum scribneranium, perennial, cool season, native, fair, increaser.
Here we have Sideoats grama, and it's a plant that you'll readily recognize after you looked at it a few times, I think, because it's got some things that will tell you what it is. I don't think you can see them in the video, but they're wide, flat leaves, and on the margin of the leaf is what we call ciliated hairs. It'll have a little hair coming right off the margin, not very thick. There's one every maybe quarter inch or so up the leaf. And if you look for that, that'll distinguish it. And if you'll notice the old dead plant, how the leaves have curled, that's very distinguished of Sideoats grama. I think you can see them down in the plant, the old plant. Of course, you can't see the ciliated hairs on the old dead part. But remember, the green part, it'll put those ciliated hairs. And then if you got old plants, you can see, I don't know whether you can see it on the video or not, but they've got little pedicels. That's what the seed have hooked, these old seed are hooked to, or hooked to little pedicels. And that's on a zigzag branch, just zigzags back and forth. And you can see those little pedicels are left where all the old seed have fallen off. And that'll tell you it's Sideoats grama. You got ciliated hair, where the old leaves, old seeds have fallen off, little pedicels are left.
Sideoats grama, Botuloa curtipendula, perennial, warm season, native, good, increaser.
Here we have a typical tall bunch grass, which is called silver bluestem. I think the thing that we need to look for to distinguish silver from the other blue stems, like little blue stem or big blue stem, on the leaves of the other blue stems, they're uniformly wide, uniform from the base to the tip of the leaf in width. On silver blue stem, if you will notice, the leaves on silver blue stem taper to a sharp point, which is not the characteristic of the other blue stems. Also, it has a fuzzy white seed head, and before it matures, has a lot of little black specks on it, which is probably the pollen that you can distinguish there. But I guess that's where it gets its name, silver bluestem. It has a silver fuzzy head with little black specks on it.
silver bluestem, Andropogon saccharoides, perennial, warm season, native, fair, increaser.
The next plant we have is Splitbeard bluestem. Splitbeard bluestem is perennial warm native in its invader and its poor grazing. Splitbeard bluestem can be easiest identified by the typical split or fork on the seed head as noted here. Usually the seed forks twice or maybe possibly has a 3 fork. The seeds are usually downy or fuzzy, and they're located up and down the stem column coming out of the forage. The second thing we use to identify the plant is the leaves. The coloration and the shape of the leaves very, very much look like little bluestem, but when you examine it closely at the base, you will find that it comes out at the base flat as little bluestem does, but the difference is that you will have hair on the base of the plant, which little bluestem does not have hair. Splitbeard bluestem many times can be confused with the lighter variety or the bluish-green variety of little bluestem that we see right here. But if you'll note, we have a difference in color from a blue-green to a lime green. In the hill country and central parts of Texas, the little bluestem is usually more of this lime green and can easier be confused with splitbeard than in this case. But the main thing to remember is when you examine the bases of your little bluestem, you will note that it is free from hair, and your splitbeard bluestem will have quite a large number of hair on the base.
Splitbeard bluestem, Andropogon ternarius, perennial, warm season, native, poor, invader.
Here we have a clump of switchgrass. It's not far enough along in the season for it to be headed out, but more than likely for contest results, you won't see it that way anyway. So the best thing to do is to go ahead and look down in your plant and go to the base of the leaf where it joins the sheath. And right at the base of the leaf, you've got the fuzzy material or little hair or fuzz that goes right up the inside of the leaf. And this is the only plant that I know of that will send this fuzz from the base of the leaf right up the inside, probably an inch, inch and a half. It'll vary, of course, according to rainfall and soil conditions. But as long as switchgrass is growing, this fuzz will be growing on the inside of the leaf up toward the tip. Hopefully you can see that. Right at the base of your leaf where it joins the sheath and goes right up the leaf.
Switchgrass, Panicum virgatum, perennial, warm season, native, good, decreaser.
Here we have Texas bluegrass, which is perennial, cool season, native, decreaser, and good. Now this is a plant that you nearly have to have the seed head to identify, I think, because there's so many that look like it if you didn't have the seed head. So we do have it here, which is a good one. The seed head is in what I call multiple compound V's that completely encircle the stem. And this seed head is very, very fuzzy or woolly, whichever way you prefer. Very, very woolly. And that's about all I know to tell you about it. It's a very delicate plant. The stems are very, very delicate. Real small, slender, naked stems about halfway up. But remember, if you see this real fuzzy seed head, Now you say, well, silver bluestem has a fuzzy seed head, but silver bluestem has awns on it. Texas bluegrass has no awns.
Texas bluegrass, Poa arachnifera, perennial, cool season, native, good, decreaser.
Here we have a small bunch grass called Texas grama. It's the smallest of the grammas. Most of the leaves, or all the leaves, actually come from the base, very thick at the base. And through those leaves comes a naked stem that has 6 or 8 little spikelets that are bell-shaped. If you'll notice, they flare out and they've got awns on those seeds. And as the plant matures, these little bells will fall off, leaving a zigzag branch with a little pedestal still attached to the branch. You can see the little bitty pedestal that seed head was hooked to. This is Texas grama, perennial, warm season, native, invader, and poor.
Texas grama, Botuloa rigidaceta, perennial, warm season, native, poor, invader.
Here we have a bunch grass called Texas wintergrass, which is a cool season plant. Now, the things that you want to look for here is, even before it seeds out, you have leaves that have little bristly hairs on the upper and lower surface of the leaf, or front and back side of the leaf, I should say, and they're very thick. You have to look real close, but you can see them. And of course, in this plant we're looking at here is about to mature, and you can see the lemma and palea where the seed has fallen out. The lemma and palea is almost transparent, and the lemma and palea are equal. If you look at the seed over here, it has one long twisted awn. But on Texas wintergrass also, if you look down at the plant, usually the sheath is only about half as long as the internodes.
Texas wintergrass, Stipa leucotrica, perennial, cool season, native, fair, increaser.
The next plant we have is tumblegrass. Tumblegrass is easily identified by its very distinct seed head. Here is a dead seed head that is already broken away from the plant. We sometimes call them a walking horse type seed head because they resemble the walking horse or the stick horse bug that you sometimes find in plants. Attached still to the plant, you'll find one that is maturing on the end, but it still has some purple or fresh color to the bottom, and it has not yet broken away from the plant. Without a seed head, the plant can be identified by the flat base and the leaves that leave the stem at about a 60-degree angle. The main thing to identify this plant, and especially to distinguish it between windmill grass, is a small white paper-thin ligule located right above the pointer. This is not found in windmill grass.
Tumblegrass, Chatonardus paniculatus, perennial, warm season, native, poor, invader.
Here we have vine mesquite. Now this is a plant that produces egg-like slick seed, and then they alternate on each side of the branch. It'll have a spikelet of seed here, and then alternate to another one, and over here it'll alternate to another one. They're egg-shaped or football-shaped, whichever way you like. And usually the last spikelet is right down on the top leaf, and then it'll extend right on up above. And then this plant also produces long stolons. Sometimes they can be 4 to 6 feet long. We've got them bunched up here, so we'll go over here and look at these, and at every node they produce a woolly hairy substance, or I call it wool, at every node. I think you can see that real well here on the back. And it also has a distinct, I call it a blue-green color, the leaves do. And another grass that'll have this color is western wheatgrass, but this one has that distinct color. Only thing, western wheatgrass does not have any stolons at all.
Vine mesquite, panicum obtusum, perennial, warm season, native, fair, increaser.
The next plant we have is weeping lovegrass. Weeping lovegrass is a perennial warm. It's introduced, it's an invader, and it's good grazing. Weeping lovegrass can be identified by several characteristics, starting with the seed head. The seed head is an open panicle type seed head at the end of a long stem. The individual seeds of the lovegrass are multiple types. You will also notice on weeping lovegrass that you will have tufts of hair at the stem leaflet junctures. And the seed head is located on the end of a long stem that has very little or no foliage. The next characteristic we use in identifying weeping lovegrass is the long, slender leaves that tend to weep or lay to one side of the plant. And the third thing I use in identifying this plant is when you examine the base of the plant, and I've broken out a section here of the dead plant, and you'll notice it comes out in little sections from the main clump, and these sections are fairly flat and matted together, and the roots have a tendency to want to hook or bend at the very base.
Weeping lovegrass, Irrigrostis curvula, perennial, warm season, introduced, good, invader.
This is western wheatgrass, perennial, cool season, native. It's a decreaser and good. This grass mostly grows in colonies. It's not a tough bunch grass like bluestems, but you'll find it in colonies. It's pretty easy to distinguish really by just the color. It has a blue-green, pretty blue-green color. And where the leaf and the sheath meet, you have little auricles that go around the stem that they're hard to see, but they just barely wrap around the stem, and it fades out at the base of this leaf, kind of like, if I remember the wild rye. And on the spikelet, those seed are in alternate bunches, and they're flat, and they lie flat against the stem. So the main thing to remember about western wheatgrass, it has a distinct bluish tint to it, little auricles that are faded out that wrap around the stem. Also, you might look at the leaf, they're strongly veined, especially on the upper side.
Western wheatgrass, Agropyron smithii, perennial, cool season, native, good, decreaser.
Here we have wild rye, commonly known as Canada wild rye. Some of the identifying characteristics that we might look for is a nodding seed head with a lot of awns, a wide leaf that tapers to a point with a lot of veins. The thing that I really like to look for when I'm trying to identify this plant is at the base of the leaf, it bleaches, has a little ring of bleached out appearance, and has little auricles that hook itself around the stem of the plant that are purple in color. Bleached appearance at the base of the leaf with little purple auricles. And even on down the stem of the plant at the base of the ground, you'll see a purple appearance. I think you can see that at the base of these plants. But the little bleached out appearance at the base of the leaf, purple auricles. This is a perennial plant that's cool season, native, a decreaser, and good for livestock grazing.
Wild rye, Elymus species, perennial, cool season, native, good, decreaser.
Here we have windmill grass, perennial, warm season, native, invader, and poor. Now, it's very distinctive in that the leaves and the sheaths are about the same length. The leaf is wide, uniformly wide, but comes to an abrupt point that's got a little sticker on the end of the leaf. You can see it, just a little tiny sticker on the end of that leaf. And that leaf and the sheath are about the same. And if you look at the base of the plant, it's very flat. Looks like you pressed it between book. But the leaf and the sheath are about the same length. Leaves are uniform, come to a point, sticker-like point. Now, if you can come up and you look at the seed head, it looks like a windmill, I suppose. And each one of those, if it has seeds on it, has a little short on each seed. And this happens to be the hooded windmill variety. There is another variety called tumble windmill grass. It's a little shorter growing, but the leaves are practically the same. So it doesn't make any difference which one you get. They'll just call them windmill grasses. If it's tumble, the seed head will flower out on another axis below the one above, but this one doesn't.
Windmill grass, Chloris verticillata, perennial, warm season, native, poor, invader.